What's up, everybody? Everyone still in the States, Merry Christmas again. Hope everyone had a great holiday with their families and stuff. I know I did. And I usually watch Black Christmas. And I was watching it for a little bit. And for like the first time ever, I just had a movie pop into my head that I'm just totally in the mood for. And Echo, I'm sorry that I completely passed out like for 4 hours after I asked you if you wanted to stream this, and I still woke up in the mood. Like I was like I couldn't shake the thought of watching this movie again, but I can watch this whenever. So we're streaming this shit like one of the next few nights. Like, because you have to see this movie. It's absolutely hysterical. And that is, of course, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Now, this is a first for my channel here. This is the second video I'm doing on this movie. Like, ever. Like, I've never done a repeat video on a movie. Now, I did this movie very early on in my channel, like maybe the first month, something like that, because it's one of my favorite horror comedies of all time. Like, it's such a great idea for a movie. Just just the way that it's written, with just how they keep using the same gag, but it keeps going and they just keep finding a way to write like just the perfect script that like it just keeps escalating. And like there's just this whole miscommunication and prejudice and stuff and judgment between these two hillbillies who are the sweetest human beings in the world and these stupid college kids, except for Allison. But if anyone hasn't seen this movie, stop what you're doing, go on Tubi, watch this movie, like immediately. Like, this has been a cult classic for like a decade now. I saw this when it came out. It wasn't in theaters that I know of, but I saw it like on demand, and I almost died from how much I was laughing. Like, and I have no idea how to say his last name, but Alan Tudyk, who plays Tucker, I'll always, like, he's been in so many things, but I'll always see him as the Father Veal from Arrested Development, which is like my favorite comedy show of all time. So I'll always see him as that character, but like ever since I saw this movie, then that topped it. And now I just see him as Tucker. Like, he's so good in this. And what is it? Tyler Labine is absolutely hysterical. And he's a brilliant actor, too. And, like, all the kids do a great job, too. This is such a funny movie. So, for anyone who hasn't seen this, I'll give a quick little premise here. There's a group of college kids that are going to party in the woods on the anniversary of a redneck murder spree. And Tucker and Dale are rednecks that are the sweetest people in the world, and they bought a fixer-upper, like, vacation home. And, like, that's all they wanted, like, ever. And Tucker bought it, and they're going up to fix the place up. They finally got their dream home, like, fixer-upper. And then there's just, because of the the judgment and just like how quick people are to judge other people just by how they look, and prejudices and preconceived notions of people, or like stereotypes, like, oh shit, hillbillies, like they're murderers. Because of these type of things just go wrong. Like, but there's just miscommunication throughout, and it leads to the most hysterical shit like ever. Like, so this is definitely, I can't watch, like, not that I watch my own videos often, but if I like go back and just like look at something like for a little bit, I can't look at like my first like 2 months worth of videos on this channel. Like, I cringe. Like, I just don't, like, when you start like getting into your groove and like style and shit like that, like over time, then you like fall into your own. But like when you first start doing this, like it's nerve wracking a bit. Like, it's, you don't know what the fuck you're doing either. Like, anything about how YouTube works, like the algorithm. Not that anyone knows, but any of that. So you're blind, and the more you do something, you get better at it, or maybe I suck just as much as I did when I started, but I just can't watch my first like 2 months worth of videos. Like even like scanning through like a video or two, I can't. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you guys have experienced the same things. You guys with channels and stuff. But all right, let's watch and talk about this amazing movie directed by Eli Craig, and what was it, 2011, right? Yeah, 2011's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. All right, so we open up with like this quick like kill at the very beginning, and we don't really see what happens or who it is or anything like that. And then we just get the title credits, and then we cut to the college kids. These group of what is it, six of them, right? One, two, three, four, five, six, something like that, 6 or 7 of them, and they're smoking joints like on their way up to camp and shit in the woods, and then they just Tucker and Dale just drive past them. There's gonna be a lot of laughter in this fucking video. There was in my original video, that was like fucking an hour long, like, and month into my channel maybe. I think that was one of like the longest videos ever that I did on Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and I couldn't get through that video. Like, and that was when I was like reading off my notes and stuff. Couldn't get through it without cracking up. So there's gonna be a lot of that. But if you guys have seen this movie, which I'm assuming that you're watching this, that you have seen it, you know how hysterical this shit is, and just the way that they. When they get to like the convenience store here, the college kids, or like the gas station, you know, with the little store, and they go in and like one of the girls is like, "What is this place?" And someone's like, "It's just a store." Like, I love those lines. That is so funny. Cause he's right. Like it is just a store. It's like just because it looks like, you know, backwoodsy, they immediately think like, you know, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre type shit. Like, it's so funny. I almost freaked out just now because I just said that last thing about those lines before the scene like actually happened, just from memory, and those lines aren't in the scene. And then I was like, what is going on? I rewound it and watched it again, and they're not in there. I said, you know, oh shit, I'm confusing that with later, like with the cabin. Like, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm just losing my mind. Like, I'm pretty sure, like when the kid goes to the cabin and he's like, they're like, what is this place? And he's like, it's just a cabin. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, like 99%. But if not, it's been a long Christmas. Just also the whole dynamic between Tucker and Dale and between the actors here in this movie is fucking perfect. Like, they play off of each other so brilliantly. Like, it's really unbelievable. Like, it's one of the things that when I first saw this movie, when it came on demand, I was blown away by like their performances and like how much you care for these characters and how much they feel like lifelong friends. Like, they put on such brilliant performances here. Like, they really do. Like, and just the comedic timing on them too is just amazing. Like, so good. Like here in the scene when when Tucker is they're looking at the college girls, and Tucker is telling Dale, and he's trying to pump confidence into him and saying, "Oh, why don't you just go talk to them, and like, you know, if you don't take the shot, then, you know, just go over and smile and laugh." And he goes over, and he goes like, with the scythe in his hand that he doesn't even realize he's holding. He's got this big ass Grim Reaper scythe, and he's like, "So you guys going camping?" And he starts maniacally laughing, but he's like nervous. That's why he's laughing. But they look at it like he's this creepy fucking redneck. Oh, it's hilarious. And then the guy, the main douchebag of this movie, he like, I think he's in another horror movie. I can't think of what, but he's a douchebag in this movie. And he pops in and he's like, "Listen, we don't want any trouble." Dude, it's hilarious. There's going to be a lot of repeating the lines from this movie in this video. Same as the last, like, the original video on this. But I feel like this style fits this movie a lot better. I love when they're they're driving and he drops his beer and then the cop pulls him over and just the way they bounce off each other again, like he's stuck like down, like looking like he's fucking blowing him trying to get the beer, and he's just like, come on Dale, like he's coming. Like the way they go off each other is hilarious. And then he just like rips his shirt off to get out of there, and he has like no shirt on, just sitting there. Oh, it's so funny, man. This is such a great pick to like end, like post Christmas with, technically, for people in like 5 hour, 6 hour, like earlier time zones. Then still Christmas for you guys. And then the cop like lets them go and just says that there's nothing up there but pain and suffering on a scale that you can't even imagine, or like something like that, and he just lets them go. And then they get to the fixer upper cabin, and it is just a wreck, man. Like they got to put so much work into this place, but they're like, it's perfect. And that's great, man. Like that's so cool to see people that you could tell like they're from like a poorer background and stuff, and just to be able to have a place to call their vacation home. That's all you need. It doesn't matter how poor, how rich you are. Like that don't matter. Like if you get to have your dream, that's all that really matters in the end. And they get to have their dream vacation home. And I'm sure with how determined these guys are and how much this is a dream for them, that they will put every single bit and sweat and tears and hours of work into fixing this place up into the most amazing vacation home possible. Like they would definitely go to that length because they care that much. And you can see that just from their interactions with each other and like as you start to get to know their characters. But so good, man. I love this. Zip. Just the fact in the flashback of the massacre, you get what is it? Who is it? Technotronic? Who's pump the jam, work it up from the '90s. That's such a fitting song for this. Like this scene here. Like it's so perfect. And what I really love about this movie too is that there's some great kills in here. Like, not, if you can call them kills. I mean, in this flashback is the only like real like actual killing like early on that we see. But like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't really call like what's to come killing, like a murder like we see here. But like the guy who throws the circular saw and it hits the guy right in between the eyes in his face. That looks awesome. And then the girl who gets her throat slit or stabbed or some shit. That looks cool. Like also, like, and there's like another cool kill. I forgot already what it was, but it's great. Like it's like the effects are pretty good in this movie. And then like in the greatest scene in the movie, like right before that, it's just awesome. Like all the craziness and gore that happens then. And you guys know what I mean. I love when they're fishing at night. And on the other side, like of the pond, whatever this is, like the college kids like start to go swimming in. But before that, like when when Dale goes to grab the last beer and Tucker smacks his hand and then he's like, that's the last beer, that's my beer. And then he's like, oh yeah, you're right. And he's like, you gotta learn to stand up for yourself, and otherwise, like, and goes on this whole like tangent trying to teach him a lesson to like stand up for himself. And then he goes to do that and grabs the beer and he smacks his head again. He's like, are you insane? Are you crazy? Like, that's the last beer. Like, that's his. Like, there's no way around it. That's the one situation that his lesson he just gave does not apply to. Magic. Those lines are magic. Like, when Allison falls because she hears Tucker and Dale whispering to each other, like, when they're fishing, and she falls off the rock she was going to dive off of, and she doesn't come back up, and then she's unconscious, and then they have to pull her onto their boat. And, this is just like a little canoe, basically. And they pull her onto the boat, And they start screaming out to the college kids, and they're like, "Yo, we got your friend, guys, we got your friend." And the one kid's like, "Oh God, they got Allison." Oh, it's so funny. And like Tucker's like, "Oh, why are they running away?" Like, and this is just where the miscommunication just starts. This is where the levee breaks. Like, this is where just the split, like, we don't know what's wrong with these crazy college kids, is what Tucker and Dale are thinking. And the college kids are thinking, these crazy maniac murdering hillbillies just kidnapped our friend Allison. It's so funny. And they just, the way that they wrote this exact same gag over and over again, like, as we go through this movie, of just the miscommunication and like just misunderstanding the situation and just like refusal to see the situation, like, and look at it logically, like, all of that. It's handled so well. Like, oh, I love this movie so much, if you can't tell already. And yes, this is of course on Tubi, so if you guys want the best naturally squeezed orange juice, which I love me some orange juice, you're going to want Florida's Natural. That's going to be the brand that you want to buy for that natural, no preservatives, just pure orange juice. And then this one guy, like, I like too how the group like kind of builds in how they view the situation. Like, at first there's a few rational ones, and one, they're like, "Where do you think they took her?" And he's like, "I don't know, maybe they took her to the hospital." And then like just the dickhead main guy is like, "You guys don't get it." He's like, he's like, "This is war, like, between us and them." Like, it just like makes it so much bigger than it is, and like not even remotely what the situation is, and just the way that like that keeps building throughout this movie, and more of the characters like start thinking the same way, like in that delusional, just just not seeing the situation way. Like, it's so brilliantly written, this movie. It really is. It's why it's one of my favorite horror comedies of all time. And did I mention in that whole conversation that it started off that conversation with the college kids with after the kid said like maybe they took her to the hospital, the one kid says like, tell them what you saw, and the one guy goes, "It was really dark, but it looked like one of them was eating her face." Like, what? Like, this is how mass hysteria starts. Like, this is a perfect example of group delusion or mass hysteria. I don't even know if a mass hysteria would apply. There's only what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of them, plus Allison, but she's not. She's with Tucker and Dale now, but probably just like group delusion though. But like for sure, like, because that's what all these people start going through. All right, yeah, I was right from earlier when I misquoted the scene at the store. Is that from another movie, maybe? I don't know why I thought that. But then I said it was probably with the cabin. Yeah, when he comes up to the cabin, the girl's like, "What is this place?" It's like, "It's just a cabin." It's so true. And that's exactly what it is. But just because how ignorant these people are, they just see it as like a murder home, like ran by psychotic hillbillies. Like, oh, it's so brilliantly done, man. Allison with Dale, like, "My friends, they just left me here," and he's like, "Don't worry, yeah, I know, but don't take it personally. Like, some people just can't handle the situation," or something like that. Oh, that's so funny. Their whole chemistry too, between Dale and Allison, is perfect in this movie. Like, it, I mean, yeah, a little unrealistic, like that they end up together at the end, maybe just a little bit, but hey, the heart wants what the heart wants, right? So I have no problem with it. But their chemistry is so good in this movie. Like, the way that they play off each other, like, just, I love every line of dialogue that comes out of both of their mouths in every scene they have that they share together. Like, they're so good together on screen. Dude, Dale is the sweetest human being in the world, man. Like, god damn, did Levine like really just kill this role and like put his whole heart and soul into this, because like, he's like the sweetest person in the world, and like you just instantly care for, I mean, Tucker too, but I lean more with Dale. Like he's just like the most fucking genuine person. Like just what you see is what you get, and but he's got a heart of fucking gold, and just I love it. Like his whole performance is amazing in this. And then when Tucker's revving up the chainsaw, and then like the kid Mitchell or some shit, like I think that's his name. Who cares? These kids have no names. They don't matter. But they do have like little distinct personalities, but their names, I have no idea. I've seen this movie so many times too, and I can't remember the kids' names except for Allison, and can't even remember the dickhead's name. But when when Tucker is chainsawing through and he goes through the beehive and the bees start fucking stinging him and chasing him, and he's running and he runs around the corner and he's like, run for your lives, and they all run, and like he's like running like next to the kid Mitchell, and then he just runs into like a branch, like a tree branch, and impales himself. Oh, that's so funny. But that actor, unless it was heavy like makeup for some reason, but that actor looked dead already. Like like he was so pale, like so pale, like Powder. Remember that movie? I remember the name. I don't remember much about it, but Powder. Like that's that kid's nickname now. Like he is so pale, he looked dead already. Like before he stepped anywhere near that branch that killed him. Dreams are not stupid. Yeah, Allison wants to be a therapist, and I love when she starts leaning back, and he goes, "No, don't," because she's like leaning back on the chair, and she's like gonna fall, and she just takes that as like, "Don't be a therapist." And she goes back, "You're right." Like my parents say the same thing. Like, oh, that's so funny. Like just the humor in this is just it hits every mark for me. Like I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan. Like I mention that all the time. I'm a huge comedy show fan. Like I love comedy almost as much as I love horror, and this just hits all the humor for me. Like every single bit. I saw your friend out there. Well, he's getting stingers picked out of him. He's like, I saw your friend out there. And he was like, must be allergic to bees or something because he was running like a bat out of hell. Oh man, this movie's hilarious. And then they show the college kids finding the guy who impaled himself on the tree branch, his body. And they're like, they fucking killed him, man. The main dickhead guy is like, they left his body here as a message. Just how like aggressive this guy is. It's like it's so funny, and just the way that the movie like the direction it goes, like with him and everything and his backstory. Oh, it's just so perfectly written, man. Like this is a movie that I don't think I've met anyone who doesn't love this movie. Like no one. Like everyone I've ever talked to about this movie, after I first saw this movie and almost died laughing the entire time, I showed my sister immediately, like 3 or 4 days later, and she and I almost died from laughing and hearing each other laugh and stuff. Hilarious. And then she showed it to like 10 people, and I showed it to like 25 people, and like told them to watch it, and just I've never heard anyone say they don't love this movie. Like it's the perfect blend of, and it's not even the perfect blend. I can't even really say that because this is much more comedy than horror, like 100%. Like this is comedy with a horror angle and some gore and kills. That's basically it. Like this is much like 85% on the comedy side. But it's just it's so perfectly written. It's so like brilliantly directed. Everyone's delivery of their lines, their comedic timing, like everything is just so well done in this movie. And then they go and try to find their friends, like Allison's friends, and she stays behind. And they're like, maybe we can write him a note, like leave him a note. And they carve into the like big ass like fallen over tree. They'd carve it in it. We got your friend, or we have your friend, something like that. And then they just come up and see that and just take that the same way they've been taking it, like they kidnapped their friend. Like I love it. I love it. It's just gonna be praised this entire video, trust me. And then we get leading up to my favorite scene in this movie, like 100%. When Tucker's working with the wood chipper, and Dale, and then Allison comes and helps dig the outhouse, the shit house, as Dale was saying when he's stuttering, and the group of college kids come up and they see her digging, and they're like, oh, the sick fuck, they're making her dig her own grave. Oh, that's such a brilliant line. And then the one guy just charges at them with the spear, and he's holding the shovel. Dale has the shovel over his shoulder, and he just like spins and knocks out Allison by accident, and then falls into the hole, and the kid impales himself on the spear he was charging him with, and like just blood is falling on Dale and shit, and he's freaking out as this kid's like dying right, like just right in front of his face, like shish kebab, like on top of him almost. And then the other guy just like runs, and as he goes running at Tucker from behind, and Tucker goes to pick up another thing of wood at the exact second that this kid leaps at him, and he passes right over him, and he goes face first into the wood chipper. And he's holding his legs and shit, and he's like freaking out, Tucker. He's, oh god, this is such a brilliantly written scene. Like, it's so good. Like, I can't say anything like bad about it at all. It is absolutely brilliant. Like, what a great scene. And then just what happens here, like my favorite like little monologue. It's not really a monologue, but like a tiny one in this whole movie. Calm down, get a hold of yourselves. Tucker and Dale trying to figure out what's going on, and Tucker's like, this is a suicide pact. Like, these college kids are coming, killing themselves all over the woods. Dale's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, he says, call the cops to Tucker. Oh, yeah, howdy ho, officer. We've had a doozy of a day. Here we were, just doing chores around the house when kids started killing themselves all over my property. And he's like, that's what happened. He's like, you'd have to be a moron to believe that. And then just when he repeats that to the cop in a little bit, it's so great. Chad, that's the dickhead's name, the main dude. I want to say he was in Final Destination 3 for some reason. Yeah, am I wrong? If you're a Final Destination fan, that's a series that's going to be coming soon, so strap in for that. But also, yeah, let me know if I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure, right? He's in Final Destination 3, the one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead on the roller coaster. Pretty, like, 99.9% sure. But Chad, his name is. Maybe you deserve to die. That's fucked up. And then safety's here. The cop arrives and picks up the three of them. The other one walks. Chad, I think he walks. And then they're about to have just the funniest scene in this movie. Like, you know, next to that this whole sequence, it's the whole thing with the wood chipper and the shitter hole starts to all the way through this. Like, it's just the best part of this movie. It's so funny. Weird. And then the cop shows up right after they pull this kid's legs, his lower torso and down, out of the wood chipper. And they're each carrying one leg, dragging this half body. And the cop pulls up, and he comes out. And what do you say in that moment? Like, what can you say? Just what he rehearsed earlier. Officer, we've had a doozy of a day. Here we are, doing improvements around our new house. And like Dale is like chiming in like new house and like echoing like what he's saying. He's like, when these kids started killing themselves all over my property. And then like they talk for a little bit, and he's like, now I don't know how much experience you've had with this, but we were scared shitless. Oh, best part of the movie. Like, oh, it's so fucking hilarious how they keep that one gag going, like, throughout this whole movie, and just keeping it fresh, like, every time. Beautiful. Beautifully done. And just the whole way that this movie plays on so many horror tropes, like, it makes it hilarious, too. Like, you know, with the cop who's, who shows up and then gets instantly murdered by the killers. Like, this is from the college kid's point of view. And like everything that happened before, their friends were kidnapped, and then their other friends were murdered by them in their eyes. And so like it has a lot of like horror tropes in here and cliches that we've seen, and just makes fun of them and flips them around. Like I can't say enough about this movie. Obviously, this is such an amazing horror comedy. And the cop leans on the beam in the house after they're like yelling at the cop like from inside the car. The three of them left, and they're like, or the four of them. There's four, right? Yeah, the four of them left, and they're like, "Don't go in there. Like, why is he going in there? Why doesn't he arrest him?" And they bring the cop in there, and he leans on the post that almost hit them, that almost hit Dale earlier, or Tucker, I forget which one, and falls through, and another board with nails in it just comes and smacks the cop right in the head. And the nails stick into him, and he's walking outside, and they're like, "You okay? You okay?" Like, he's just gonna walk it off. He's gonna walk it off. Oh, that's so great. The way that he does this. Then the other kid comes out with the cop's gun, and he's like, "Oh, you motherfuckers," and holds the gun at them. And he goes and he can't shoot because the safety's on, and Tucker's like, oh, you gotta turn the safety off there. And this kid's so like, it's so stupid how he does this. Like, he turns the gun around to his face, like juggling with the safety with his thumb like in the trigger, like right on the trigger, and then just blows his face off. It's absolutely hilarious, but the way that he does it is so funny. Like, just a stupid way. Like, who would ever do that to turn the safety off a gun? I mean, I know it's happened. There are people, but it's hilarious. And there's just an all-out shootout. The Chad is shooting the gun at them, and Tucker tries to go out there to get the dog because, like, Chad's that big of a Chad that he has to really show off how big of a man he is by killing a fucking dog, threatening to kill a dog. Fucking, I hate this guy so much. But then, like, they're having like a nail gun fight versus the gun. Like, Dale's like shooting at him with a nail gun, and they're shooting with an actual gun. And then, like, that whole scene with the dog happens, and Tucker tries to rescue the dog. So sad. I love that dog. He's like a little marshmallow, as Dale says. Correction, a big old marshmallow. Or maybe I just want marshmallows. I don't even remember if he said the marshmallow. He's a big old something, he said. Pretty sure it's marshmallow. Then they capture Tucker, and they have him hanging upside down from a tree. And he wakes up, and Chad goes up to him, and he's like, "I've never stood so close to pure evil before." Oh, that's so funny. And it's like, it kind of stinks. Like, oh, it's hilarious, man. Like, how do you not love this movie? Like, oh, this was such a... I wish that I was able to watch this with Echo earlier. Like, I'm sorry again, Echo. I'm sorry I fell asleep. But, like, I was toasted. Like, I had to, like, pass out. But we will stream this, like, this week. Like, 100%. Because you have to see this movie. You would love this movie. Everyone does, like I said earlier, like in this video. Everyone loves this movie. It is so hilariously insane. I love when Allison wakes up and Dale's there, and he's freaking out. Like, he's like, I don't know how, like, she has no idea what happened since she got knocked out before the kid speared himself on top of Dale, and the other one jumped in the wood chipper. So, like, I love how he's just like, your friends, like, any of your friends take medication? So it's like, why? No, why? And it's like, I think maybe if they did, they forgot to take it. Great. Just great delivery. Like, he's so good in this movie. Dale, calm down. Nobody wants to hurt you. Die, hillbilly. Alright, serious talk now. So, I just thought of this. Like I said, I've seen this movie a few dozen times. Like, in the last 10 years, 11 years. Yeah, like, I love this movie. When I say I love this movie, I adore this movie. If you, like I keep saying, if you can't tell. But when Allison goes outside And Dale keeps saying like, "Don't go out there. You don't know what it's like out there." And then she goes outside for the first time, and she sees all the carnage, and she sees the half body, and the cop dead, and the other guy when they blew his face off, and all the death everywhere. She still have to think the most rational thing is that these guys are murderers, right? Like I get it. Like she had a few like talks with him and stuff, and he just came off as a sweetheart. What if he's just an amazing actor? like seriously, what if he's just an amazing like actor? A lot of psychopaths and stuff, they can manipulate, they can put on an act completely. Like, why would that not be the first thought? Like, why would the thought be that there's a miscommunication? I mean, I could see that, but under their murderers for me. Like their murderers is number one up here. Right here is, miscommunication. But I just thought of that now. I was like, she kind of believes all this like very quickly. that this is just a crazy miscommunication, and nobody on either side has any idea what the other side is doing or talking about. So I don't know, just came to mind. Let me know what you think about that. That. Just the fact that Dale, when they get the package at the door, like the fingers, the two fingers from Tucker, just the fact that he says, "Oh, they cut off his bowling fingers," makes it so much funnier. Like that is such a brilliant line right there. And then Dale goes to find, and he finds Tucker, but there's a trap, and Tucker's trying to warn him while he's hanging upside down, and he like walks into the trap, and the spear comes flying and goes right between his legs, like almost hit him in the dick, and he has to check himself, and he's like, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I'm not hung like a bear." Like all of that, so hilarious. 2.9 financing on the 2022 Fords. All right, only a few days left until the sale ends. So just letting you guys know, since Tubi let me know. That rhymes with Finding Nemo. And Chad and the friend get in the cabin with Allie alone, and they say because Dale went to go help Tucker, and she's like, "What?" He's like, "What have they done to you?" He's like, "They haven't done anything to me." He's like, "We have to burn this place to the ground, destroy it completely." Oh, it's so great. This guy is such a lunatic in this movie, and he plays this role so well. And then him freaking out that, like, saying, like, "Are you falling in love with him?" Like, "Tell me you're not falling in love with him," and him just getting just crazier and crazier. Such a good performance by him, too. So Allison starts using her psychology here, that she wants to be a psychologist, and her therapist, and she has Dale and Chad sitting at a table together, and he starts pouring tea, and he says here a little crucial detail for her foreshadowing for later at the ending, that he's like, "Is this chamomile? Because I can't have chamomile, it fucks with his asthma." So that obviously plays into the end when Dale's smart as shit. Like, even though, and he has this conversation with Tucker, and like he's a smart guy. He's just, insecure. And then after this whole ordeal, he becomes a lot more secure with himself, which I love that whole like arc of his character in this. And just this whole scene is hysterical too. Like them like trying to talk this out. So funny. He goes, "Chad, why don't you go? Where should I begin?" "Wherever you like. A long time ago, before I was born." All right, or maybe not that far. Killing it. Like the writing, I can't say enough about the writing for this movie. Like that's what makes this movie. That and just the performances. Like it all relies on that. Those two aspects. And it just crushes on both of them for me. So then Chad sang on the Memorial Day Massacre. His mom and dad were there, and his dad was killed after having to watch his mother that was pregnant with him tortured in front of him, and then he was killed. And then he heard that from his grandma, and never knew his parents. So like, sucks for him. But obviously we find out more about it at the end. But I love how like apologetic that Dale is. He's like, I'm really sorry that happened to your family, but like that wasn't me. Like I had nothing to do with that. And he's like it's your kind. I'm like just more building on the whole premise here of just prejudices and preconceived notions about people and stereotypes on people, and so good. So the black friend and the blonde bimbo, who reminds me a lot of one of the stripper girls or the Bayou Beaver girls from the Hatchet movie, the first Hatchet, reminds me of her pretty much. And they're like sneaking on the cabin and stuff, and he says like, "Hey, Chad said if like longer than 15 minutes we go in guns blazing," and she's like, "You don't even have a gun." He's like, "Damn it, woman, will you just let me do this?" And it's so funny too. Like, I can't, I just can't with this movie. It's amazing. Are they drinking tea? No, they're fucking trapped. Same gag, always hilarious. That's right. He can't even hurt a fish. And then the black guy and the blonde bimbo, they charge in. He's like, "Get ready, freaks," or something. And he goes, he has an electric, like, weed trimmer or something. And he goes, like, for Tucker, but he just moves out of the way. And he fucking massacres his friend's face. The girl that was in there. Oh, and it looks good, too. Like, I mean, you could tell there's some CGI touch-ups, probably. I mean, definitely some CGI, but it still looks good, and like because of how absurd this movie is, and it's just hilarious. Just his reaction. He's like, "Damn, baby, why didn't you duck?" Like, so good. And Chad throws the lantern or whatever like across the room, says, "Go to hell, you freaks," and it lands on the black guy's leg, and his leg catches on fire. And then the blonde girl opens up a can of moonshine, thinking it's water, and chucks it on him. And he just ignites into flames, and then like the whole like house blows up, like except for Chad partially makes it out, and Tucker, Dale, and Allison make it out. But oh, so fucking hilarious. And they rejoice outside, the three of them, and then Chad comes out like looking like Two-Face. And I remember in my initial video for this so long ago, I can't believe it's been like 7 months since I started this channel. Like that's pretty crazy actually when I think about it. We're gonna have a fun next year, man. 2023. Can't wait to see what horror is gonna bring us. I know Maxine's coming. Can't wait for that. Let's get back to Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and he comes out looking. Oh, and but in that video, like I said, Tupac instead of Two-Face. I said like he looks like Tupac. I was in shock that like I said Tupac instead of Two-Face. That's absolute. That was so stupid. Like that was the funniest shit ever. And I was already in hysterics from like reciting these lines, like for the video. So like it was just like me laughing through like most of it, just like this one. So some things never change. And then they crash into the tree. They like drive like I don't know, like 30 feet maybe, and then Dale crashes into a tree, and then he goes to find Allison, who Chad kidnapped, and we'll see how this movie concludes soon after this broadcast. And then Dale ends up going with his dog Jangers, and finds them at the lumber mill, and Chad tied her up like to like the table saw, like a big ass table saw. And Dale comes in and like scares the shit out of Allison for a second. She has like the little like masks when you're like doing metal work and shit. I'm blanking on the word. Screw you. Merry Christmas though. Well, Merry post Christmas. Merry the 26th. But again, people in earlier time zones still Merry Christmas. But then they get into this whole fight, like a chainsaw fight versus Chad with the pipe, and like we've seen this in movies and it's making fun of it. Like the damsel in distress that's on, like we've seen this exact thing, like on a fucking table saw in the woods going, and she only has so much time while the two guys are fighting, and then obviously he gets her out like in amazing fashion by like just like throwing a fucking axe or like a little hatchet or something, and just gets her out. And then they rush upstairs to get away from Two-Face, not Tupac. They find the news article about Chad's father, and they show the picture in the newspaper that looks just like Chad, like that was his father. And she's like, "Who does this look like to you?" And he's like, "That looks like that Kentucky Fried College kid out there." And then they figure out that that he's half hillbilly. That this is like the worst news ever. Like on that massacre, like she was raped by one of the hillbillies, so he's half hillbilly. And this is like the biggest shock to him ever. Like that he comes up with a chainsaw and he has Dale on the ground and he shows it the newspaper saying like your father, you're part hillbilly, and this stops him and puts the chainsaw down and he's like no, it's impossible. Like almost like that, like almost Empire Strikes Back. Like it's so fucking brilliant, man. It's so funny. And then while he's all distracted, Dale picks up the ingredient in chamomile tea that he happens to know that because he is a fucking brilliant guy. And he just remembers all sorts of weird shit, he says, which I can relate. I know a little bit about a whole lot of shit. So, like, I get where Dale's coming from. But I'm not a hillbilly, so, For any hillbillies watching, we love you just as much as better people. And then we just get this whole thing how it ends, and he blows the ingredient in the face of Chad, and he just flies. He's like, "Oh, he'll be all right though if we get him his inhaler." And he flies out of the fucking lumber mill, like on the second floor. It falls to his death. Like, that's hysterical. Then Dale's looking all nice and trimmed up and stuff. He cleans up nice. He's a handsome fucking guy. And Tucker's in the hospital because they cut his two fingers off. So now they reattached it, but one's like a woman's finger. Like, who would do that? Who would do that? Like, the surgeon who reattached those. He thought that was his finger? That he has fucking nail polish, like fake nails on one finger? And like, this doctor doesn't know the difference between a female, like, finger and a male finger? Come on. Like, that's fucking stupid. But just this whole scene with, and then finally like asking him like, did you ask her out? Like, did you ask her? And then he's like making it sound like he didn't, and then he's like, we're going bowling, and it's like, hell yeah, like, good for Dale, man. I love his little whole building confidence here in the end of this movie. It touches the soul, touches the heart on a post, if not still, Christmas. Now this ending is weird. I don't know, man. Like, dark. Like, because it's good for, like, Dale and Allison, because they're together here at the bowling alley, and before she sits down with him, he's talking to this creepy old guy, like, old friend of his, looks like a homeless person, and just, like, giving him the same confidence boost and speech that, like, Tucker would give to him, and say, like, you have to just go out there and get whatever you want and stuff, and he's like, I'm gonna go talk to her, and looks at some random girl. Then we see Allison sit down, and he gives her a gift, and it's a pink helmet, so she doesn't hit her head again, like, she got knocked unconscious, like, 3 fucking times throughout the events of this movie, so, adorable. And then, wait. So, after that cute moment when they share a kiss and stuff, and they say they feel they love each other or whatever, they feel the same way about each other. The old homeless looking friend, the old dude, he fucking, in the background, he punches this woman in the head, like in the face, and she falls over the chair onto the ground. And then they just kissed, and they like look over and like, should we do something? And he's like, hell no. And then they start kissing again. And then the old dude picks up the unconscious woman and drags her off screen. What does that mean? Like, is that he's gonna rape her? Like, is that what that's supposed to mean? Because, like, I never understood the ending to this movie. Like, it's so dark. If that's like, basically what's implied. He knocked her unconscious. Then he just creepily dragged her away. And all these people are gonna let that happen? Like, they're not gonna say anything about this? I don't know. Like, that's so weird. But Oh, what an amazing movie! Like, like I said a few times, in my top five, if not top three, horror comedies of all time. Like that's how high it is for me. It just hits every single note for me, like perfectly. And it's just hysterical throughout. And just the way that it makes fun of horror tropes that we've seen so many times and flips them around and just how the how brilliant the writing is in this. Just everything. Perfect. So now I can get back to sleep. So I'll wake up in still in the 26th, but I'm going upstate on Wednesday to see my daughter for I think like 5 days and spend New Year's with her and stuff. So that'll be fun. And I got to think of some movies to do up until these next few days and stuff up until New Year's Eve. I already have my New Year's Eve ones picked. So definitely got to figure out for the next couple days or so. But alright, guys, wherever you're from, hope you're having a good morning, which I know some of you are at this point, Britain, or a good night. And I will talk to you guys soon. Again, I hope everyone had an amazing holiday with their families and everyone is happy, healthy, hopefully not sick with some COVID or whatever the fuck the new thing is, or the flu, or any of this craziness, because I know so many people that are sick right now. So if anyone is sick, I really am sending my good vibes out. Hope you guys feel better. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care, guys.